Today's guest is Lise Battaglia, who was featured in the new documentary called Introducing Homeopathy. Lise specializes in treating addiction with homeopathy, and she's also one of the speakers at this year's Joint American Homeopathic Conference, or JAHC, which is online only this year and runs from 3 till 6 April. To register for JAHC, visit jahc.info. To learn more about Lise, visit recoverynaturally.com. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to the Homeopathy Hangout, where we discuss all things homeopathy from around the world. And now my mum and your host, Eugenie Kruger.
Hello, homies, and welcome to the Homeopathy Hangout podcast, where today we get to speak with Lise Battaglia. Welcome to the show, Lise.
Eugenia, I couldn't be happier to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you.
It's such a pleasure. I mean, I think things must be blowing up for you right now because the Introducing Homeopathy movie that has been worked on for so long and we've had little sprinklings of it here and there. And then just recently, the Children's Health Defense Network, which is run by Bobby Kennedy, released the video free of charge for everyone to watch, initially just for 24 hours. And then it was just twice. And then it was for like a week, which I was so glad about because I only got to watch the first half an hour and then I had to head off. But when I realized I could watch it again, I did. And I got to see you on there and I got to see the client whose testimonial you were sharing, which is so powerful. So to have you on the podcast is wonderful. So just once again, welcome.
I'm smiling ear to ear. Thank you so much.
Smiling ear to ear, I might add, while it's like 10 o'clock at the night, Lisa's time. So thank you. But can you tell us your story of how you were first introduced to homeopathy?
This is the story that everyone has. I had a health condition that I wanted to, actually, I wasn't that sick. I just had PMS. And I was in a therapist's office in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And she said something about, I have to go to my homeopath. And I said, you have a homeopath? Now, I don't know if I knew what a homeopath was, but I knew I needed to know. One of those kinds of ask, a little voice in the back of your head. So I said, let me have her number. I wound up going to Sylvia Faddis, who was one of Vitukas's proteges. She basically helped him create the school in Greece. She's dead, unfortunately. We've lost Sylvia. But in Manhattan, not far from the UN, and I made a donate. The first appointment in 1988 was $450. So any homeopath who says we can't charge money, it's not true.
Oh, wow.
But of course, it was the 80s in New York, and same thing. I mean, people were making money in the 80s in New York. In any case, I wasn't making that kind of money, but I put down my $450 in cash, which I just donate all of my first clients to the orphanage she was building in Tibet.
What?
Homeopaths are interesting people.
That is amazing.
I mean, homeopaths are interesting people. Now, she was an absolute professional, but, she was married to someone who was in Dizzy Gillespie's band. So is it possible that Sylvia was Dizzy's homeopath? Because we know the quote from Dizzy Gillespie, the two important things in his life were bebop and homeopathy, right?
Oh, interesting.
Two revelations. So anyway, that might be my connection to greatness. But Sylvia was wonderful. I went in for PMS and she took my case 2 hours, lots of questions, and she had some amazing Tibetan graphic behind her and all these books. Now we all have computers. She had these gorgeous books. And she says, I can't help you for your PMS.
After you paid the cash.
And 2 hours of time and talking about all kinds of intimate details that I didn't understand why she needed to know, but I went with it. She says, well, no, you had a car accident 6 years previously, which is true. I was 27. So when you're in pain at 27, you have so many other cofactors floating through your body that you kind of doesn't hit you the way it does when you're 40 or 50 or 60. So I said, yeah, okay. Well, we have to take care of that first. 6 years of chronic sciatica pain moving all over the place. I said, okay. 3 days later, one prescription, a bold, confident dosage of 1 of remedy, I'll tell you in a second. 3 days later, I have no pain after 6 years of chronic pain. So what do? Everyone does the same thing. What else can this do?
Yeah.
What else can homeopathy do? Of course, we got to the PMS eventually, but yeah, it was pretty dramatic. It was sort of like dramatic. It was just arnica, just a 1 arnica, very confident prescription. gave her a lot of credit. That's how I started homeopathy. And from 1988 until now, I have never voluntarily taken an antibiotic or prescription medication except for lidocaine when I get my teeth done.
Mm.
That's it. And the reason that's possible is because the body can heal.
Mm.
All we have to do is give it the help it needs, right? So that's it's not as great as some people who have suffered for years and years and years and have all these horrible things happen and they woke up from the dead. I mean, not quite, but it was important to me. I had a series of kidney infections in the past years and the years before that, and it was pretty remarkable that I never had to have an antibiotic. That was a happy.
That's amazing. I love, love, love people's stories. I've said one day we actually need to put out a book with everyone's stories of how they found homeopathy because it's fascinating. Well, maybe how homeopathy found them. But you are very known for your work in addiction, and it always fascinates me. Like, how does somebody decide to specialize in an area, especially something like addiction? Like, what was your road to that?
It was serendipitous.
Mm.
So early on, homeopathy was very compelling. Felt really drawn to it. It kind of made sense to me. I never had a hard time understanding anything or making leaps, but I was a chef at the time in New York City, and I didn't think I could make a living as a homeopath. So I kept seeing Sylvia. I kept doing body work and other things that took care of me. And I had always been involved in crisis counseling. I was a rape survivor counselor at New York St. Luke's Hospital for about 12 years. So people in trouble, people with, outside of society, people, abused, taken advantage of, on the wrong side of the tracks, sort of was not uncomfortable for me. I can be a little bit of a champion for things that don't go right in the world. So when I was working as a homeopath and as a GAPS practitioner, I was doing, microbiome restoration because that was a continuation of the chef work. I was offered the opportunity to apprentice with a mental health practitioner who took interest in my work. And I had to enroll in some classes and I had to take some school, but I did hundreds of hours of supervised work with her and doors just kept opening. I took a class, I took a certification, I wound up taking an exam and I was ushered into it. And I feel like I was only answering the call. I was responding to the doors that opened. I said, okay. I mean, I had addiction in some people I knew in my life. I mean, everybody does. How do we define addiction?
Well, I was about to ask you that. That was my next question. What does it look like?
Well, what do you think addiction is?
When you
I'm putting you on
can't.
the spot because
No, I think like
assessment. What do we think addiction means?
yeah, if you can't do your day without it, like I think of my morning coffee. I mean, that's an addiction because my day just doesn't feel right without it. So it can be something quite benign, like seemingly benign. But if you can't function without it, or you can't, or there's a craving or a need for it, if you're not just
Well,
neutral
that's a
about
pretty
it.
broad, generous definition, and I don't think a lot of people would disagree with you. In the conventional allopathic world, because I have the training that allows me to call myself an addictions professional. It seems to be there are a few factors that have to be in place. It compels you, the fulfillment of the thing that promised is the satisfaction of the craving. And is an addiction a lie? At the end of the day, it's just a lie because you can't feel whole by doing this thing. Because I think with caffeine as an example, the addiction is that you feel better for a while, but then you're going to want it again. It never is fully satisfying. It never gives you that deep kind of that you're looking for. So I think that the pieces that the allopathic conventional world would say is this: the compulsion to satisfy the craving, does it make you lose time, lose money, lose relationships? Is the pursuit of it damaging to your overall life? So, for example, we have hidden addictions. So the big ones we know, right? And this is the tricky part of it. It's not that only people who are on the street or at 12-step meetings are addicts. Is it because that's sort of making the addict the other? And if you think about the other, making people the other, it means that they can't, their experience isn't your experience. You don't have to think about the things that they have to think about. I mean, the whole thing with the masks was about knowing how to think about people without getting to know them. Maybe this is a little off topic, but the addict is compelling, I think, as a conversation, is because they may have dreams, they have aspirations, but they get in their own way. Now, everybody has that experience. So when you said the coffee, that was a great example. That's a physical addiction. It's a physical dependence. Where does dependence become addiction? That's a big question, right? Do you know, how do we have this conversation?
I haven't lost relationships because of coffee, and I haven't lost my house because of coffee.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So maybe you're not addicted to coffee. Your brain chemistry, and this is interesting too. Can we speak about ourselves as the wholeness of us, I am, or do we speak about ourselves in terms of my body, my brain chemistry, my blood sugar is reliant on caffeine?
Okay. Yeah.
Does that mean you're an addict? I think it probably doesn't mean you're an addict. It probably means a few days of detox and getting off the coffee with a headache or two, and you're back where you want to be, have a little more free will, a little more independence from substances. So the addict has a brain chemistry that dictates their behavior. That's how I look at it, which is why it's so bloody cool to be a homeopath talking to someone with an addiction. I don't know about you, but for me, there was a moment as a homeopathic patient when I kind of noticed that I wasn't worried about getting sick anymore.
Hmm.
Is that something that you experienced too?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And then I stopped and thought, everybody else is constantly afraid and becomes more afraid the older they get that their body's just going to fail them.
Mm.
They're going to have some dramatic event that's going to send them to the hospital. They lose their sovereignty. They have no choices. They are forced to do things. Bring that consciousness to addiction. The conversations you have, because this is the conversation. I had no choice. I had no choice. I had no choice. What's horrible about the lie of the substance that promises to be your nirvana, that promises to be your ecstatic experience, which is so much what addiction is. We're seeking that kind of moment where we just feel complete, perfect, in alignment, et cetera, et cetera. So, having a conversation with a person whose entire world, the media, their medical system, their families, everything in their world and their universe is basically is agreeing with that sense, that comment, you have no choice. And their outcome is they spend the rest of their life white knuckling it, hanging on by their fingertips to get through. Talk to a homeopath. It's a totally different conversation. You mentioned Greg. He's a sweetheart. The Greg from the film.
Mm. He was very brave. Him and there was another person on the show as well. I can't remember his name, but they're so brave to tell their story, and the difference that their testimonial makes in the world is unbelievable. It's very, very powerful. I was just chatting with some homeopaths just this morning about the film, and I feel like Kim's idea was to try and squeeze as many experts into one film as he possibly could, and he really managed to do that. I think it's going to be really interesting. I can't wait for it to be out on Netflix and just more publicly accessible, so I can really.
No, 109. If he has a 2-hour film, there are over 198 hours more of footage.
Wow.
There's 200 hours.
Wow. That's incredible.
Greg and I alone had about 8 hours. They have about 4 hours just on me.
Wow.
And the editing process on that was so intense because that's when it turned into a story, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've always thought there's some things that homeopathy, if it can just go mainstream, can make such a difference. And I feel like addiction is one of those. And there's several things, but I think addiction definitely is one of it because mainstream, what's the alternative? You can go to a psychologist, you can go to hypnotherapy, all of those things. But all of us as homeopaths have experience having a client that comes and tells us, I've seen a psychologist for 10 years and nothing's changed. And then we give them a remedy and energetically it just shifts things so effortlessly that it seems as if it was them that just came up with it out of the blue themselves, as suddenly they don't need this thing anymore. And it is them, but obviously the remedy stimulates it. But homeopathy is powerful. I'd love to know how you work with these people.
That's a great lead-in to the question because it's the vital force. For me, I was a Bach practitioner in the 1990s.
Oh, Bach flowers? Yeah, I did see a YouTube video, an interview with you when you that was 10 years ago though. And it said about Bach flowers and you professionally chefing
and I do a lot of that still.
Uh-huh.
Because, we talk about the vital force and big questions about what's in charge. Is the vital force in charge? Can it be in charge if it can become weakened or strengthened? Then it's not permanent. It can shift. So then
Influenceable. Yeah.
is it at the top of the chain of how we've come into the world, experience the world, and sort of where our souls exist? I would go as far as to say that those 38 flowers that Dr. Bach was guided to, he mostly did provings by putting a petal on his tongue, only after he was suffering with the thing that needed the solution. Those 38 flowers, we believe, share the resonance with the virtues of the human soul. So at a 5x dilution, not even succust, a 5x dilution of the dewdrops off the plants, off the petals of the flowers, seems to bring in the vibration, the resonance of our soul's virtues in exaltation, in their balance. And the frequent exposure of those to us helps us kind of go, oh, I know how to do this. People seem to think the Bach flower essences are like homeopathy light. It could not be farther from the truth. Because putting your soul into alignment makes you receptive to healing in deeper ways.
Mm.
And when you say, how do you work with an addict? Well, it's great to know what you're looking at. I've been asked this question many times. How did you treat someone or work with someone who's drunk? And we just go back to what we know. Don't let them freak us out. Don't let them scare us. Don't let them push our buttons. If someone is drunk, they are in a poisoned state. Simple. So you treat it like an acute, you treat it like they're poisoned. Simple. You've got your handful of remedies that are great for poisonings. You've got Nux Vomica, stellar in this space. You've got Arsenicum album. You've got Veratrum album too. And you've got remedies that are great for poisonings. And that's how you handle it. But it is very, very important to give people a way for emotional stability. You can make a decision, and this is the brutality of addiction. You can make a decision and you can set it up. And when the craving comes, if you don't have a way to cope with it, it's very challenging to make a different choice the next day, which is why, and it's very interesting, this space in the United States anyway, this addiction space has tremendous benefit, has tremendous success among the peer-to-peer support environments. I read a statistic not too long ago where the statistics were identical between the outcomes of the professionals, licensed psychologists, etc., supports for people trying to avoid opium overdose and ergo death. It was identical to the peer support community as the professional community. Both communities had the same level of success in helping people avoid overdose.
That's interesting.
It is very interesting. And I think this space, it's easy to be discredited, disregarded, and disabused if you're called an addict, if you're an addict. It's easy for people to discredit you and to feel that you brought it on yourself. Now, behavior is one part, biology is another. And so there's a lot of pieces to this. And we'll go into this at JAHC, actually. But the idea is we live in a world now where peer support is trusted almost more than professional support. And in the addiction world, in the benzodiazepine withdrawal world, which is kind of what Greg was experiencing, what they're doing together to support each other is dramatically effective. So we as homeopaths are peers to our clients, right? They are sovereign. Their vital force, hard to understand, needed to be translated, or sort of needs to be interpreted, or we need to whisper the vital force, is running the show in terms of what remedies to give and what the next steps are to take. But, we don't have a problem being an authority because we're not. So the homeopathy participation in a person's wellness strategy as in struggling with addiction or behaviors that take them in the wrong direction in their life, it's an easy fit. So how do you speak to them? You speak to them like a brother. You speak to them like you would, like any good, active or reflective listener would. And it's worth going to AA meetings if you want to be working with that population as a homeopath. It will be very illuminating. You can study with me, but there's nothing quite like being in the room with people who are being so unbelievably vulnerable. It forces you to kind of take an accounting of yourself and where your weaknesses are. I will use people who come to, so we have two parts. We have people that are mostly trying to manage to deal with the hard work coming up ahead of dealing with the physical structure, the physical demands of a craving. I will use integrative approaches. Like I've got a smoker, a lifelong smoker, who's going to be at the JAHC presentation. I'm going to record her and show her so we can. The only reason she's not coming live to the presentation in JHC in April is because I want to be able to slow down the recording, stop it, so we can have a chance to talk it through and we can sort of identify together what are we looking at, right? Because this is the biggest. How do you look at an addiction case? This is a big question, right? So you look for poisonings, you look for the vital force. I still prescribe constitutionally, and organotherapeutics are very helpful. But the batch, they can take them.
Any specific like batch flowers or Bach flowers that you like?
Give me an example of somebody who has a hard time.
Well, we can use the smoking addiction, because I think that's one that so many people struggle with that doesn't have that much of a stigma attached. Let's go.
Doesn't have a stigma. Excellent point. Well, let's put it this way. American Cancer Society will help you quit. And they have a sort of a phone or an online step-by-step approach. One of the things you have to do is you have to pick a date. What's your drop dead, stop quitting date? What's hard about that? I don't know if I can do it. So all of the things that make that task difficult, for example, let's pick things out of the air on that one. I don't know if I can do it. That would be larch. That's the Bach flower for larch, is for confidence. I'm not sure about the right day to do it. What do you think the right day to do it? Serrata is uncertainty. That's a big flower. In fact, that is the flower that finally got Greg off of his inability to decide to take the step forward into homeopathic care. It calmed his limbic system. It brought down his level of anxiety because it restored to him his connection to his certainty. Known, unknown, sort of underlying, born with, taken away, abused, disrupted, whatever it happens during life that takes us out of our sense of, I'm perfectly fine where I am, doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'm okay with it. That baseline of sort of ease, of not too happy, not too unhappy, just sort of, I am where I am and I'm good about it. That's what we need. That's the baseline we want to arrive at. I think it's a big baseline. I think it's a big indication of wellness that's on its way to manifest.
Loss of community might be another one. The ones that on the smoko break, they all, get together as kind of like that feeling of community. But if you're now the one stopping smoking, you're now excluded from that.
Well, that's interesting too. Let's talk about the talking part. The talking part, people sometimes talk too much. They only talk about their concerns. How many people walk around saying, I'm in recovery? They haven't had a cigarette in 45 years, but they still identify themselves through their illness. And heather, for example, is a great flower for people who just talk too much about their problems. So just getting people out of the stinking thinking, the negative self-talk, the batch is without parallel. I've had clients, and 5x, think about that, it's a 5x. I've had clients come to my practice from other homeopaths who had given people aconite 10M for anxiety, argentum nitricum 10M for anxiety, repeated doses, didn't touch the case. So yes, looking at the human being in front of you as best of your ability to sort out the cry for help and from the constitution, because everybody can look again. If you're complaining about something enough and you're talking about how panicked you are, anybody can look at an aconite 10M. I think we're afraid of people that are in pain. I think they really push our buttons. So yes, working with this population, you kind of have to figure out how you're going to be who you are, and it's going to be okay. I was on a step in that film, so I was shouting a little bit, and I felt like it made me seem bossier than I am. I'm pretty bossy, but it made me bossier than I am. But I think the reason people like working with me is because I am who I am. And I think someone who doesn't know, tells themselves they don't know what the right next thing to do is, people come to this moment in their lives when they say, I don't know how to live. Suicide is a consideration for them in many, many cases. And you holding the space of being perfectly fine with who you are. And even if you're not fine with who you are, but you're authentic about it and you're honest about it and you just want to be a human being sharing the space with them, this is usually comforting. I think more homeopaths could be great working in this space just by working on that little bit of an area, just you're okay. I mean, it sounds kind of Pollyanna-ish, but I think it's a big part of it. You have to be able to hold the space for someone else's discomfort. And homeopaths are trained that way. Everyone comes to us saying, I have this horrible problem. And because of our experience and because of our materia medica, we can look at someone and say, well, I can see beyond what you see.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can see the reorganization of the vital force to produce health in you instead of downward spiral of illness and death. So we have a little bit of an extra advantage, I think.
So when you're taking on a case of addiction of any sort, what are some, you said you use an integrative approach. So do you do supplements as well as the Bach flowers as well as classical homeopathy, or what sort of things? Because I'm just thinking they kind of, you need like a backup system there for when they do get exposed to that. So I'm guessing you'll have remedies like constitutionally, but then also to help them stop falling off the wagon, or if they have fallen off the wagon, to get back quicker.
I love how you're phrasing that, because also falling off the wagon, I think that homeopathy provides a softer landing pad for them. Again, what stage are you in? Are you looking at someone who's in the pre-cognitive stage of wanting to make a decision? I mean, this is part of my training as an addictions recovery expert professional. You actually are taught how to identify at what stage of the decision-making process are they, and the decision being abstinence or quitting or going into recovery. So I think that helps us identify, and I'll be talking about that to some degree in April at the JAHC this year. It's important to know where to enter the conversation, right? So if someone's having a hard time making a decision, be with them in that experience. I mean, I have had people come into my office who were high. There's no question about it. And they're intoxicated. They're getting Nux vomica. I have a client who is ADHD. The stimulants are starting to help her. The Adderall is actually starting to help her. But she's been on cocaine for years, and she's taking Nux vomica 200C every day. And she's been able to switch one stimulant, which was cocaine, for a prescription stimulant, which at least we know how much is in there. At least we know it's a substance that she can count on it being a standard stimulant support. And she takes Bach flowers. I let her do anything she wants with the Bach flowers. She takes them as often as she needs to, whatever she wants to. And we're starting to see she's in a tricky space because she was suffering from a benzodiazepine withdrawal, and she was doing all these street drugs. So this is sort of kind of a nightmare for someone that comes into your office like that, but not really, because the first prescription is so obvious. It's Nux vomica. She had concomitants that were constipation, bloating. She was kind of aggressive. She was demanding. She ruled the roost of her family. A lot of addicts do, by the way, because everyone's walking around on eggshells around them. So let's find someone who's been smoking their whole life and they're starting to just have. So I want to answer the integrative question. So I'm not big on doing a lot of vitamins. I think the gut component disqualifies the vitamins from having a strong impact. Most addiction will come down at one point or another to a conversation about neurotransmitters. The self-soothing, they're hormones as well as enzymes. Neurotransmitters is very interesting, and they exist everywhere in our body. So if you were to do, and each substance has its neurotransmitter target. Cocaine would be the dopamine's pathway. Chocolate, chubby hubby ice cream, and rom-coms would be the serotonin pathway. Cannabis, there is a cannabinoid pathway in our body, in our brain. And the opioids, we know about the opioids. So,
and nicotine as well.
Nicotine. And the conversation recently about nicotine as a cure or a substance that is helpful to people suffering from cardiovascular issues post-COVID vaccine and COVID is an interesting conversation, because a poison it's a perfect example of when a poison becomes a medicine. I mean, people are putting their feet in nicotine water. Tell me that's not diluted like a homeopathic remedy.
Yeah.
Tell me
I know. I feel like even with microdosing, like psilocybin and things like that, it's like, you guys are like, you're almost there. You're almost there. Just push a little bit more and you'll be there.
A little bit of a nudge.
It's like seeing a baby learning how to walk. It's like, you've almost got to just keep going.
You said that because it's so true. And I've given anhelonian, which is peyote, in potency for people that had mental illness. Fascinating what we can do with these medications. homeopathic preparation of these medications. So learning a little bit about which medications, which things that they're craving for them on a street level, or they've been prescribed them, so now they're dependent on them. Let's take away the stigma, right? You've taken, and you saw Greg in the film. We were just taking our medications the way we were told to. Did you catch that? He was breaking. He started to cry. I mean, it was really powerful. So he's not an addict, but his brain acts like an addict. So I tend to like to identify what neurotransmitter systems are at play. I happen to have lists of foods that will activate those neurotransmitters in a healthier way. And so that we can start adding those to the diet.
Wow.
They're not only reliant upon their substance to help their broken neurotransmitter system. There's a lot of swapping in and out that goes. Believe it or not, John Gray, Women Are From Venus, Men Are From Mars, has a lot of YouTube videos talking about the oxytocin-deprived woman, talking about the testosterone-deprived man. Now, what's a precursor to these two hormones? Dopamine, you have GABA as GABA aminobutyric acid is a precursor to dopamine, and dopamine is a precursor to testosterone. Women, carbohydrates and serotonin are precursors to estrogen and are precursors to oxytocin. Now, oxytocin is that I'm falling in love with this human being that's crying and pooping, and I'm so in love. In spite of the difficult pain and stress that it adds to the person's life when a newborn is in their life. Makes us kind of stupid, makes us loyal, but it makes us feel happy when oxytocin surges through our veins. Men feel happy when testosterone surges through their bodies. So just kind of getting familiar with the part of the body that is the neurotransmitter system and how it's supposed to behave so we can learn how it's broken. For example, if someone walks into our office and they can't walk straight and their knee is buckling, you know there's a problem with the knee. How do you know there's a problem with the serotonin system? How do you know because these behaviors. So actually, as I talk about it now, I'm going to really focus on this a great deal during the JAHC conference next month, because we have to be able to identify the parts of the body that are calling out for help. So the clue is, what substance are they on? That's a demonstration of what they need. Now, people who smoke cigarettes, people who use nicotine, it helps you focus. There's no way around it. It helps you focus. So what does that mean? What is it like? So what do you do as a homeopath? What does it feel when you don't smoke? What is the true quality of their inability to focus that requires a cigarette? So that's the way to have the conversation. Treat it as though they're medicating themselves, and the way they're medicating themselves will tell you what they need help with and where you can step in.
I actually feels incredibly powerful what you're saying, that really and this is like true homeopathy, is like getting down to the root cause and actually what is the neurotransmitter that they are low on, that they're trying to find through this behavior. I extra love that you give them foods and things like that they can naturally have, to deplete their body.
I'm thrilled that this is resonating for you, because I don't want to just get too nerdy about it, because I can be a little nerdy about it.
No, I actually really love using neurotransmitters in clinic. I really like Ton Janssen's work, and especially all the work that he's doing with neurotransmitters. It's absolutely mind blowing.
His work is going to change homeopathy. I've studied with him for years, and the first time I used SRT, serotonin, from his Materia Medica, I knew what to do. That was the first time I took someone off of. I didn't take them off. I have to not to speak like an allopath. This woman, late 60s, came into my office. Do you want me to tell the story?
Yeah, go for it.
The first time. He came into my office from the clinic that was across the hall that had helped me become addiction certified, because we still had good relationships. They would send me the hardest cases. She walked into my office and said, I want a natural way. She was on hydroxycodone, which is an opioid. She was on temazepam and alprazolam, 2 benzodiazepines. She walked into my office. I'm not kidding. She looked like she was hit in the back of the head with a frying pan, the way you'd see in a cartoon, and you see the little swirly things in the other. And she was talking about things coming out of her TV screen. I wasn't afraid, because SRPs everywhere made this little homeopath very happy. And, she had stramonium for a few weeks, or even 10 days, and the creature stayed inside the TV. That happened pretty quick. And then she said, I want to get off these drugs. I said, okay. Well, we found out why she was on the drugs. That's the most important question. What brought you to the moment in your life when you started to take it for the first time? That's the purest version of their vital force crying out with symptoms, showing the susceptibility and showing the miasmic influence that you're going to get. So think about it. When a person comes to a homeopathic consultation, great, we take all the case, everything about them before we give the first remedy is interesting. But once we give the first remedy, we don't care about the history anymore. In a way, the conversation now is what's happening, presuming you have 3 or 4 remedies that were good contenders and you chose one. You'll always know who those 3 or 4 are, but you picked one. Then the conversation always, well, how was it after the remedy? Tell me what happened when you took the remedy. If it's got no juice and it's not doing what you expected to do, you go back to one of your other top 3 choices. You don't have to take the whole case again. I tend to not like to do that. I don't people get too caught up in telling their story.
Mm.
And then we lose the story because it becomes something that they're practiced at.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you want to get that moment where you understand who they were before they picked up the medication or the drugs the first time.
I mean, that in itself must sometimes be quite hard because they won't even know because you're so far down the track. But that's where I think homeopathy.
You keep asking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the magic of homeopathy because I'm just thinking of clients that I've had that'll be like 5 or 6 prescriptions in. You'll give them a remedy and they go, actually, I realize now why I did that.
How many times has that happened?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not going to always be straight off. Like they won't even know. Like I'm sure you would ask them these questions, what happened or what was it that led you to it?
Actually, yeah, that happens. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that happened before. And I think it happens a lot in the world that we live in now. People are reading about homeopathy online. I'm a big fan of democratization of knowledge. I'm not opposed to it, but they come into the homeopathic consultation with ideas about proving an aggravation and retracing of old symptoms. So that's what you just said comes through. It's like, well, let's not call it an aggravation yet. Have you ever in your life, had a pain in your ankle? Ever? I guess I did. Okay, so that sometimes triggers them to remember what they didn't know to bring to the consultation in the first place.
100%.
And speaking of that, I want to just say one thing. You almost can't go wrong opening up an addiction case or looking to see if natrium sulfuricum is part of the case.
Oh, interesting.
I can't tell you how many people, even in the more enlightened allopathic world in terms of benzodiazepines, because people are on these medications for 30 years. 30 years. They're only supposed to be taken for 2 weeks. People in the allopathic community are saying they do brain damage. These medications damage the brain. And it goes back to why'd you take it in the first place? I have anxiety. Brain injuries make people feel anxious. It's a sort of a low-level vertigo or that gets worse when you focus on it and you become anxious about it. And when the anxiety is taken away, maybe it didn't take away the vertigo, but it's still there. And what I notice when people start coming off their medications, one of the biggest things that we as homeopaths have a really challenging time with is to hold the line on suppression. Reminding people, okay, you're doing a lot of great work. I hope I'm being linear enough because I practice in a way that's fairly linear, but the information sometimes comes flooding in pieces. All of these addiction cases, I'm going to take a step back. All of these addiction cases or dependency cases or heavily medicined cases, you're struggling with suppression everywhere. And the physical aspects are obvious. You have a symptom, you don't know to talk about it because you don't have it anymore. The medicine took care of that. That's whole thinking. But here's the other tricky part, and which might be a little bit of the addiction whisperer that we all could learn a little bit more how to do. We suppress ourselves through certain kinds of conversation, through certain kinds of belief. I need something. Trying to get someone to talk about themselves and their feeling who have been habituated over time. They're habituated that the pill will take away the discomfort. The pill will take away the anxiety. So that return to self-reliance is a very unchartable, new and frightening world for people because it brings up their belief that they can't do it. It brings up their sense of failure that they didn't do it. It brings up their childhood issues. It brings up their money issues. It brings up, self-reliance, taking care of ourselves. This is the thing that we've been talked out of.
It's extremely frightening.
that makes us so reliant on a system that says, I'll take care of you.
That's much easier.
Very true. And, in our role, we can't, I know homeopaths who are doing amazing work in the world, who will not touch and are famous and well-known and making incredible books, and they won't touch a client on 3 or 4 psych meds. They won't touch them.
I've heard of homeopaths that I've had on the podcast that won't touch a client who is on just even contraceptive medication.
30% of Americans are on these medications. Americans, I don't know about the rest of the world, but we can't avoid them.
No, exactly.
We have to have a way in.
I love that what you said about the nat self, because it's such a good liver clearing remedy as well. So apart from the brain injuries,
most of these medications and drugs are affecting the liver and the kidneys.
Yeah.
So any support we can give the people in this area. I can't tell you how many times I've just given an LM1 for nat self for like the month where we're kind of getting to know each other. So I'll give them a Bach
great
formula.
idea.
I'll give them a Bach formula. And I love Bach formula and nat self. LM1, the LM is a pain in the neck, but you get them over the hump to actually do it.
Rather than a tissue salt, like nat self tissue salt is so great for the liver as well.
It is, but these people really need it. I find the LM1 just so much more powerful and avoiding. It's all individual, so I can't speak. Contradict. I don't want to contradict you. In my practice, I've just seen pretty dramatic things shift.
Beautiful.
When the nat self in a 1M is given.
You say LM1?
LM1.
Or 1M. Okay.
Sorry, did I say 1M?
That's just the second time. That's why I just wanted to clarify. But LM1, that makes a lot of sense.
I'm very happy to correct me. No, the LM1, because it's something they do. Let's not forget, they're antidoting everything that you give them.
Exactly, with the medication, it's like a constant antidote. So how would you?
Medications, their drugs, or their vaping, or whatever they're doing, they're constantly running the risk of antidoting something. So I like to start in a non-judgmental environment. They don't have to stop doing anything to get started with homeopathy. And good homeopathy, puts that vicious sleeping giant that woke up back to sleep, so that their self-reliance and choice and knowledge of themselves changes, so different choices eventually are made, and they make decisions to stop things.
Yeah, I hope we'll see that. We'll never ever hear stories of homeopaths saying that they won't see clients if they're on XYZ medication, because it always really breaks my heart when I hear that, because what's the point of being a healer if you only see people if they are not? That's where we can do the most powerful work, is when they are still on these medications and we're supporting them through that. So what are they supposed to do?
Suppression is hard to work with.
Our remedies are so powerful, though. It's actually amazing how we've got so many tools at our fingertips that we can use alongside the medication. I love that you're saying that you're not telling them they have to go off it. You're giving them support remedies, like a little crutch, until they can, they're strong enough to walk.
I appreciate you saying that that's the way it looks like to you, because I hope that's kind of what we're accomplishing.
It's a beautiful, non-judgmental way that you're doing it, and that is the way that we should be doing it. It doesn't matter what medications people are on, what their beliefs are, what their life situation is like. We're healers. We should be able to meet them where they're at.
You brought up Ton Janssen's work. He is doing such important work, and his Materia Medica, everyone should buy his books, because his Materia Medica is not with proven remedies, but we need them nonetheless. Some of them are starting to get proven, and there's one piece that goes back to the integrative approach that we can employ that doesn't cost any money, doesn't require any kind of sophisticated learning: glyphosate-free eating. I had a slide in last April at JAHC when I presented the increase of ADD prescriptions and the increase of glyphosate in children's foods went up parallel in use. And then when awareness about glyphosate in children's cereals like Cheerios, General Mills and things like that, when the glyphosate was taken out of the children's food, the prescription medications for ADD also went down. There's no way to ignore that glyphosate makes us anxious. It adds to anxiety. It adds to inability to process our gut lining and take care of our gut lining and produce the neurotransmitters that are in a healthy gut. 90, 70%, 80% of dopamine and serotonin are produced in the gut, in a healthy gut. So you want to do one thing, get the glyphosate out of your food, and your body will start being its own source for this neurotransmitter supply that we're using other substances to give us.
That is powerful. That's powerful. Talk to us a bit about the JAHC, because I think they celebrated their 50th year of doing conferences last year. And I remember I've had Christina Donker on a couple of times, and I could tell this poor woman is working her butt off putting these things together. So when you were saying that they are doing it online this year, I'm so happy to hear that. Tell us a bit about it.
It's exciting. It's kind of exciting. I think, during COVID, when all of us sort of just made sure we'd had the conferences of the year that everyone was being told to stay home, it makes it doable. It's like, oh, wow, we could do this again. So I think the idea was they're trying to do it every other year. I'm noticing that at JHC this year, there are a tremendous number of presenters, more so than in the live conference. And the beauty of it is you don't have to see them when they're being shown. There's a certain period of time that they allow you to review the playbacks. This year, we're doing these workshops. I happen to be doing one of them, and they're 4 hours.
Wow.
And we're hoping to make them somewhat interactive, even though we're still on behind screens and it's online. It's tough having conferences online because you lose the bumping into people in the hall, sharing a cup of tea, the chat over the tabbouleh and say, oh, this is good, oh, this is terrible. Just the kind of camaraderie that human beings around each other gives. There's so much more information that's available that you can do on your own time schedule. And there are breakout rooms. So they still have the features of the website. They're still facilitating conversation during, before, after the different workshops or around certain sponsors' tables and things like that. So they do their best to make it almost as good as being there.
But that's pretty powerful that you're doing a 4-hour lecture. So you could really do that in an in-person one, so that it feels like it's a little bit more in depth rather than just like an hour talking. You can only do surface. You can really get into the nitty-gritty, which is valuable.
I'm hoping to have the smoker. Well, you asked me that question. One of the greatest supports for people who smoke is black pepper essential oil.
Oh.
You sniff it, it goes up into your hypothalamus, it regulates your cravings, and you don't need the tobacco.
Interesting.
And it's not one of these minty smells that's going to antidote a homeopathic remedy. Black pepper essential oil.
Never heard of that. That's really interesting. I love Avena sativa, and I'll often give it in like a 6x in the person's water bottle every day. So just put 2 pillars in the water bottle, shake it, and then they're just drinking it throughout the day. Yeah,
for the craving for cigarettes. It's also very good for insomnia too.
Yeah, it's such a good remedy. Avena sativa.
And I love the potency. You've chosen 6x. Guess what? Bach flowers are 5x. There's something magical about that 6x potency.
That physical dose,
definitely. That defies even the 10M for the big emotional problems. And we're working on emotion, right? You're working on behavior and how to navigate your feelings.
Just
do something that's crazy or that you regret, right? Like Avena sativa, 6x, that's a beautiful little remedy.
I haven't heard of black pepper essential oil before, so that's a real good one. I'm definitely going to put that on my list.
Smells good too, actually.
Oh, good. With the JAHC, do you have the dates? Maybe I should just hop on the website quickly and just see.
I believe it's April 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th. I think it's 4 days. I'm on Thursday.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you're right.
The first day of the conference.
Oh, it's lovely that it's just before Homeopathy Awareness Week. Oh, yes.
Isn't that nice?
April 3rd, 4th, and... So pre-conference workshop will take place on Thursday, April 3rd, followed by the 3-day conference on Friday, April 4th, my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Through to Sunday, April 6th. So that's great. Okay, so it's just a month away. Well, I'll make sure this episode comes out before then so that our listeners can join in. That's great. I think that what the JHC does is absolutely incredible, and their commitment to doing these conferences is so much work that goes into it. I'm so glad that you get to speak there for 4 hours. It's going to be really, really fascinating.
It'll be interesting. One of the most fun that I had, this topic is really captivating for a lot of people because we all know somebody who's suffering with their behavior or their substance use. I've been so supported and encouraged in the past few years. I've got 20 hours over at Trinity Health Hub on this topic.
Oh, wow.
I have Pacific Northwest. We did 3 hours of just benzo-induced neurological disorder. That was a solid class, and I got a lot of information in 3 hours. And then Texas invited me last October. I did 12 hours in October on addiction and hidden addictions.
Wow.
And how we need to take care of ourselves so we don't get burned out in this addiction space. There's so much interest, I think. Quietly, secretly, people all feel bad for somebody they know that they feel they can't help. I think homeopathy is particularly poised to help people with addiction. Our expectations need to meet their pace.
Mm,
I mean, this woman who's not doing cocaine and she's doing Nux Vomica 200C every day feels like she's getting her life back.
mm.
It doesn't happen overnight, but it can happen, and homeopathy can be a big part of that.
You just made me think of something because actually, like a huge issue in Australia is actually the gambling addiction. I think it's the country with like the most gambling addiction in the world or something like that. It's massive over here. And then you're not dealing with a substance, you're dealing with a just a
Well, gambling is
um,
interesting because you could lose your house.
oh, people do. They lose everything. It's
And
unbelievable.
if there's research that's been done about casinos and how the way the sound is and the way the slot machines are and just
The
the environment,
lights. Mm,
the lights, no clocks anywhere. They pump the room with oxygen
mm,
and essential oils that
mm,
make you impulsive, but it's all dopamine stimulation.
mm,
So the person who's not prone to that is the person who's dopamine stable.
mm,
The same way a person who is oxytocin deprived will get into relationships that are not good for them because the other person becomes a supply, the exogenous supply of their normal transmitters, where the endogenous, the self support of these neurotransmitter balancings is absent in their lives for culture,
mm,
environment, toxins, bad diet, glyphosate, whatever reasons, leaky gut, whatever it is, and trauma. Trauma will change your gut biome forever. I
mm,
mean, trauma has a big impact. So you come into the present moment resilient or not. So a place like a gambling environment and even online gambling, they'll
mm,
replicate that kind of spinning wheels and the sound and everything else and that dealing of cards. It's very hypnotic, right?
mm,
And it's even more rhythmic and hypnotizing than at an actual gambling table.
mm,
It's
mm,
I mean, you get caught up in it. And you're vulnerable to that if you're not healthy,
mm,
having the ability to provide your own neurotransmitter balancing act. The gambling is an interesting addiction. It's very dopamine related because it's about accomplishment. It's about winning. I've been around people like that. It's a roller coaster. It's terrible.
mm,
Terrible.
mm,
Stock market too. That's what margins are. People buy on credit. They
mm.
buy stocks.
Well, thank goodness for homeopathy. That's all that I can say. I just love what you've said about the neurotransmitters. I think that's been my big takeaway for today is just finding out what is the transmitter that matches the addiction and then
It's a
looking.
very good place to begin because it gives us a
Absolutely.
roadmap.
Mm,
Gives us a road.
kind of understands, I guess, once you understand that, it can help you understand possibly even the thing that caused it. Because if it's dopamine, then looking at the things that deplete dopamine that might have triggered the person to have that behavior. So you can kind of reverse engineer it as well.
You can. There's a lot of reverse engineering that's possible. I would agree.
Amazing. And did you say that you teach people about this as well? You've got your courses that's at Trinity Health Hub and a few other different places, but do you have your own courses as well on your website? Or
One is being launched. One
Mhm.
is being developed
Okay,
right now. One is being
amazing.
developed right now. In fact, my hope, I mean, I think that I wear my allopathic hat and I work with my colleagues in the addiction world. I've asked my supervisors, do you have a problem if I'm using homeopathy?
Mm,
And their answer consistently is by any means possible. This is an area of failure that causes people to die, ruin their lives. There's $35 billion a year in the United States spent on addiction care, but there's $400 billion lost and spent on addiction-related problems.
wow.
Parents that put their house to get a second and third mortgage for send their child once again to go to $10,000 a month recovery care.
Mm,
People who blow out their 401ks, which is the form of self-retirement in the
mm,
United States. They blow out their retirement plans. They
mm,
lose their homes. They don't take jobs. They don't allow their jobs. I mean, so the opportunity lost.
mm.
Children are raised in these environments. It's such a huge problem that they're welcoming to people who have good, safe ideas.
That
If you're
sounds like a great way to kind of like cross over with more mainstream type things. And actually, do you know what? Farrokh Master just popped into my head there for a second because he was saying that's kind of how he got his in, is in this hospital where all the like the brain cancers and all the ones that everyone else had given up on, he was allowed to work on them. That's how he built up his case history. So that sounds like a really great space for homeopaths to niche in because there's not much answers for them in the mainstream medical model anyway. So like that's a good
Thank you
safe
for saying
space.
that. I thank you for saying that. I couldn't agree more. 30% of Americans are on these medications. Untold numbers are addicted. Look, you're going to love this statistic. 60% reduction in opioid withdrawal jumping in mice who use a vena sativa.
Oh, wow. Any others?
And
You did say that you've got a list there of some statistics. Throw it at us.
let's have some fun. 100,000 addiction professionals total in the United States. 19.7 million people in the United States have substance abuse
Okay.
problems. The market demand $35 billion. You spent 23% job growth for substance abuse counselors in 2026, 13% shortage of addiction professionals by 2025. And I'm saying these statistics because I take it very seriously that this is an opportunity for homeopathy as a profession to bridge to that population. Though I feel that I want this message to be the allopathic message. I want to train allopathic recovery coaches. There are tens of thousands of them in the United States to understand how to draw their clients to good homeopathic care, how to have Nux Vomica in their bag, how to have rescue remedy, how to teach their clients about proper sleep and maybe eating for the neurotransmitter system. Those steps alone will make the recovery coaches so much more valuable because, the model is the neurotransmitter system heals over time, sort of magically, mysteriously, as long as you take away the substance. Maybe not. Maybe there are things we can do to speed it up. We haven't really talked about benzodiazepine withdrawal, but I will for a moment, if I may, because it so hijacks the neurotransmitter system that coming off of them too quickly leaves the person in the depths of physical and emotional pain. If you think about MSG, just think about MSG. If you had bad Chinese food, or you had a headache, or you got sweaty, or you kind of felt crappy the next day, the glutamate receptors in the brain, which is where the benzodiazepines work, are excitatory neurotransmitters. When you take away the benzodiazepine, the medication that sort of hacked or crutched your poorly functioning neurotransmitter, the glutamate neurotransmitter, it doesn't have a turn off button. When you take away the benzo, it doesn't turn off. So you're in this constant state of agitation. Your muscles will twitch and burn. All kinds of things will go on out of the blue. The statistics are dramatic. People who come off the medications too quickly could be in agony for 10 or 15 years.
Wow.
People lose their jobs. People lose their lives. So much to this. So sort of leaving it to chance, leaving it to the way the body will heal and not help the body heal is irresponsible. It's the perfect illustration of kind of the mafia aspect. And I speak as an Italian
Yeah.
woman
I was going
who
to
has
giggle.
lived in Sicily, it's like you feel bad, you have a problem, I'm going to solve your problem, but now you want to get rid of the solution, you're going to be suffering more. And this is the case. People will suffer more post-medication withdrawal than they did even before they got on the medication.
Wow.
So to employ whatever we can to support their body's ability to be neurotransmitters functioning, it's about the gut. You can't do without the gut. And the first step on the gut is to get rid of the glyphosated food because you're just shooting blanks. There's something about glyphosate that mimics the glycine molecule in the amino acid pathway or the genetic pathway that makes us not produce good muscle tone. We don't produce collagen, and the collagen is a big part of the gut lining. So you're just shooting blanks by having glyphosate in your food. So just a few little tricks, such as have people take it's a cheap supplement. Glycine is a cheap supplement. If you're having a lot of glyphosated foods, take glycine. So at least your body's producing the right kind of DNA sequences so that you can properly produce collagen and amino acids, essential amino acids for muscle tone.
That's really interesting. I've used the glyphosate detox with clients, but that's great that you can use a supplement as well. Amazing.
Has it been proven yet? Have we got approving for glyphosate yet?
No, I
I
don't
don't
know.
think we do.
No.
I'm going to shout it from the rooftops every time I speak. Please, someone do a glyphosate proven.
You might have to do it
Please.
yourself, Lise.
I know, but I have 10,000 recovery coaches to reach with homeopathy. And
Amazing.
that so you say the classes, and that brings us right back. I'm working on a class to bridge homeopathy to the recovery coaching
Oh,
community
amazing. That would be
because they're
incredible.
holding the hands of people day in and day out. And I think there's a beautiful opportunity for homeopaths and recovery coaches to form alliances to be able to help this population in the field, in the lane that they're most comfortable functioning within.
Mm.
So that's the class you can look forward to.
That is powerful. And I think there's so many areas where homeopathy can do this, where we can teach people in all different modalities. I think midwives are a powerful one, which I wish we can teach all midwives how to use homeopathy, and even like emergency care, like, aconite and arnica in the triage room, or like homeopathy has a place just everywhere. So I think this sounds really amazing. And your website is recoverynaturally.com, and you're on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience, or anything else that they can find you apart from at the JAHC soon? Or
Yeah, I love the question. I'm at JHC in April. I'm doing a Bach course, a level 1 Bach training. See, I'm a Bach trainer and I'm a level 3 practitioner. Level 1 Bach training is, in my opinion, the gold standard of how a homeopath can be introduced to using Bach flowers in your practice. It's a 12-hour class. It's all virtual, and we have a lot of extra class time in our group where we share stories, where we work to support each other to make good choices with batch flowers. And I think it's a big game changer for your practice because it makes people that are hard to reach no longer difficult to reach. And I'm teaching that in June.
amazing.
So that
And
class will
people
be
can
advertised
find,
on the website.
oh,
And
on the
it's all virtual.
website.
It'll be on the
Wonderful.
website. I'm probably posting it in the next few days. Maybe by the time you air this, it will be posted. I will do my best to post it soon. Yes, we just got the class set up. We have about 5 people in the class from a school that I taught at. They all wanted to come forward and do this.
Wow.
So I have room for about 10 more people. And that would start in June 14th, I think. I'll double check that.
Amazing. Grazie mille, Lise. It was lovely to have
Amore
you.
mio, amore mio, mille grazie a lei.
It was so lovely to have you on. And yeah, thank you so much. I hope I can join you at the JAHC and learn more.
That would be so much fun. That would be so much fun. And I will post the show on all my social media
Oh.
and get it out. No, people need to know, look at this beautiful, shining, smiling face. It's so easy, so easy to talk to you. It's easy to share with you. You invite you. I mean, you're a great listener. I'm thrilled to have had the chance to meet you.
Such a pleasure.
I
And
really,
thank you to Rena Amir for putting the two of us in
yeah.
touch with each other, because
Rena is such a dynamo.
so
I'm
lovely.
crazy about Rena.
Yeah. Just like right at the end here, just throw it in there. I think you mentioned you're the VP of the Florida Homeopathic Society as well, which
I
I'm
am.
guessing how you know Rena as well.
Yes. Although I met Rena at the film.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she was
Because
involved in that
Rena
as well.
was doing a lot of the marketing and some of the editing and sort of guidance in the background of the film.
Wow.
She's a powerhouse.
Well, amazing. Well, thank you, Rena, and thank you,
Thank you,
Lise.
Rena.
All the best.
God bless you. Thank you. Amore mio, alla prossima. We'll see you next time, I hope. And I hope to see you in JHC in April. That'll be so much fun.
Beautiful. See you then. Bye.